With our industrial civilization collapsing, we can no longer rely on a system that's ending. Earthship suggests a new way to live and meet our daily needs. These are houses that are 100% self-sufficient, that need neither heating nor air conditioning, that produce their own electricity and drinking water, and that also provide food for their inhabitants. These houses are also built entirely with recycled materials, such as car tires or glass bottles, including bio-based materials like earth, straw, and wood. A house that's in tune with the times, which perfectly embodies the concept of ecological living, and that we're going to discover right now. So the Earthship is an American architect who developed this type of dwelling, so it means an Earthship. He tried to imagine a house that meets the 5 basic needs, which include security, not being cold or too hot in your house, producing food, having water, and also having good quality air inside the home. Well, let's go visit all of that, please, after you. Welcome to the Abundance Greenhouse. So this is one of the main rooms of the house. It's really facing due south to maximize all the solar gains in the house. It's an interesting buffer zone since in winter the living area is never directly exposed to the extreme cold. For example, when it's minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit outside, it's always at least 5 or 6 degrees Fahrenheit in the house during winter. It's also an interesting room because there's this part of the roof that acts like a visor, preventing the sun's rays from entering the living space in the summer. So it prevents the house from overheating. A ventilation system airs out the greenhouse and prevents overheating. And then it's an abundance greenhouse, since all this area planted with vegetation is irrigated with the house's grey water. So this allows you to have a food growing area inside the house in addition to the vegetable garden.
Let's go inside. We'll see. Please go ahead.
So this is the main room of the house, the kitchen, dining room, and living room. All the rooms in the house open onto this main room. There are 2 bedrooms here, plus another bedroom, a bathroom, and the utility room. The entire house is about 100 square meters. These 3 bedrooms offer 70 square meters of living space and a 30 square meter greenhouse on the south side. Can you tell us a little bit about how you built this whole Earthship, starting from the ground up? Did you manage to do without a concrete foundation? So there is a concrete foundation just for the main framework, otherwise for the rest of the house. We did without it and made a raw earth slab instead of a concrete one using ancestral knowledge. So here there's a first layer of stones and cellular glass. It's recycled glass blown into pumice stones with air bubbles, making it an insulating material for the floor. And on top of that, we poured a raw earth slab. So a first layer, a base slab, about 12 centimeters of earth, a straw to make up most of the slab and add some thermal mass, and a thin finishing layer of clay and sand with linseed oil to harden the mix, make it waterproof and a bit more resistant. Even though it's a fragile floor, it's really warm and cozy when you're in the room. And then on top of that, how did you build your walls? So one of the aspects of off-grid living is a lot of recycling, especially for the walls. The north wall is at the back and the east and west side walls are built up. The tire acts only as a container for the compacted earth inside. We stack rows of tires like that up to the top of the house. And so it also provides a huge thermal mass. So behind these tires, we still have a volume of earth. After that, there's insulation and a top to make the wall waterproof with backfill on top of that. The wall is about 2 to 2.5 meters thick, made of earth, which will store all the energy provided by the sun throughout the year and release it into the house during the cold season. And then the roof above, we have 40 centimeters of insulation. It's wood fiber, which insulates very well. And on top of that, a green roof, which is quite light. 3 to 4 centimeters of soil are covered with sedums, small succulents that spread well and resist drought. There's also the issue of ventilation. Renewing the air. Having healthy air, as you said, that's it. A whole cycle of natural ventilation, not necessarily mechanized. So here there are Canadian wells, small pipes that are in the side rooms and then in the kitchen and the bathroom that bring air into the house. And then here we have small vents that allow us, when we want, to ventilate the living area toward the greenhouse. And in the greenhouse, there are two roof openings that allow us to evacuate heat in particular. As soon as the greenhouse gets too warm, we open them and it lets all the heat out. It naturally circulates air by convection between rooms without any mechanical system. It's an unusual construction that needs a lot of manual work. You did almost everything by self-building. How long did it take you to build the house? It's a project that took about 3 years. It began in early 2019 and was arranged from March that year. We moved into the house in September or October 2021, and really the house, I finished most of it in the summer of 2022. That's over 3 years of part-time work, but you didn't do it all alone. No, we worked on this as a participatory project, not alone. So throughout the entire duration of the project, more than 150 people came from all over France to help you out, to lend a hand. Did you face any specific challenges during these 3 years of work? Well, technically we learned as we went along. So we were actually able to take the time not to make mistakes and to really do our research. Every time we researched, visited construction sites and spoke with self-builders. But throughout the project, we weren't overwhelmed by the challenge of building, like with the framework and so on. These were things that were quite simple to implement. So if you prepare well, it's doable. I think it's accessible to a lot of people. Did you have any particular administrative difficulties? Specifically, how do you apply for a building permit for a house like this? We scheduled a meeting with the village's urban planning deputy to present our project before submitting the building permit application. We were lucky to meet an open-minded professional architect who listened, even though they weren't familiar with this type of construction. So he even supported us for this project, so that was pretty great. And then there was all the paperwork with the banks, because we still had to get a mortgage, the insurance, all those things that are a bit more complicated. How much does a house like that cost? Is it an eco-friendly dream that's actually very expensive, or on the contrary, is it even an affordable house? It can be costly to do the same thing. The American architect says a chip can cost from 20,000 to €1,000,000. You can spend as much as you like on it. So it depends on the house we build for ourselves. For a 100 square meter house, we reach 90 at the end of construction. €1,000 of budget, so €900 per square meter. The advantage is self-building, which allows costs to be 2 to 3 times lower than if we had someone else do it. No one is currently building tire walls for houses in France. You were saying how you gathered all the skills and knowledge to build this surf ship. That must have been complicated. In France, there's very little hardship. When we began the project in 2018, only 4 or 5 were truly finished. We visited a few of them. Regarding content and documentation, there were English books by Michael Reynolds, the American architect, but everything is expressed in inches, etc. We had to translate and in addition convert all the data. Francis Gendron from Quebec and creator of the Solution Era YouTube channel was the first French speaker to share content about hardship then. It let us explore this type of construction more deeply. Did you also use YouTube tutorials to build your house like I did? Yeah, YouTube tutorials work well. So then you thought after finishing my construction, I should compile all this knowledge and these skills into a book. So you published a book about an autonomous house, sharing how to build a hardship and generally become more self-sufficient. So it wasn't my plan to publish a book about the hardship. It was Rustica who came to us and suggested it at the end of the project after seeing everything we had published about the Earthship. Since this construction method isn't well known, there's still little documentation. So we also discuss Earthship, building tire walls and bottle walls, and then other things that can be reproduced in other types of housing, like the raw earth slab and straw earth partitions. There are plenty of things like that. To build a Earthship, to build another self-sufficient house, or even for a renovation, things you can take inspiration from. Now let's move on to the self-sufficiency part of your Earthship. And we'll start with what's most visible, electricity production. How do you stay self-sufficient with electricity? Well, first of all, I've greatly reduced all the electrical appliances I have in the house. It's a matter of being frugal. In my house, I just have a fridge, lights, a few small devices, and the pumps, which really lowers my needs. And then for the electrical needs I use 6 solar panels. So there is a little more than 2,300 watts of solar panel power, which are connected to 4 batteries in the house, which give me storage for a few days of electricity in the house, so it can be cloudy. For 4 or 5 days, I produce much less electricity and I live off these batteries. Are you connected to the power grid or fully self-sufficient? How much did the entire installation cost? Is it economically profitable? No, I'm not connected to the power grid, even though it's nearby, and I could have been. It cost me just over 2,000 euros, including panels, batteries, inverter, and all necessary connections. So yeah, it's still pretty affordable, and economically with current energy prices, it pays for itself in a few years. While solar panels have a lifespan of 20 to 25 years, the batteries are guaranteed for 7 to 8 years, but they can also last around 20 years if you accept a bit of loss in capacity. The goal is to avoid over-discharging to extend their lifespan. We want to adapt our needs as batteries evolve, so we don't have to replace them frequently. When we discuss energy production, we often think of electricity powering household devices. Heating is the biggest expense. You have a passive house, so you don't need heating. Can you explain how it works? Yes, it's a passive house. First of all, there's very good insulation, whether it's in the roof, the walls, or the floor, but it's also a passive house because there's this south-facing greenhouse that allows us to capture as much heat from the sun as possible and store that heat in the thermal mass. The earthen slab, and especially the compacted earth walls, add significant thermal inertia to the house. For an Earthship, it's recommended not to exceed 6 meters in depth as sunlight won't reach the back. Otherwise, you need a large glazed surface. It's all about calculating bioclimatic house design to maximize solar gains inside. So, passive house means no need for a heating system. Why is there a wood stove beside you? Are you hiding something, Pascal? So, thermal inertia in a hardship, we estimate that it works well after about 3 years. That's the feedback I've gotten from hardship residents. This thermal mass of the house should allow you to have an indoor temperature between 18 and 20 degrees. It stays 18 degrees in winter and 22 in summer year-round. But you see, it takes 2, 3, 4 years for this inertia to work properly. So the first winter in the house, it went down to 15 or 16 degrees this winter. The second winter, it went down to 16 degrees, but much later in the season. So I can see that the effect of the thermal mass is greater. That first summer, it reached 25 degrees. Now in mid-July, we've already had high temperatures. It's at 23 or 24 degrees. In a living space. We saw the whole part, energy autonomy. The second very important part is water autonomy, because without water, well, we can't survive. How do you manage to be self-sufficient in your water production? Well, again, the idea is sobriety. So I have dry toilets, and dry toilets already allow you to reduce a household's water consumption by 20 to 30%. It's huge how much goes into our toilets, and then it's also about using water efficiently at the faucets. I have a very efficient faucet in the kitchen to limit the water used when I do the dishes or things like that. It's about collecting rainwater, filtering it, and using it. In the house, behind the house, there are 3 tanks. There are 22 cubic meters of rainwater storage to last through a few months of drought. About that amount of water, I thought I understood. I had heard that we're not allowed to drink our rainwater. Rainwater is regulated in France. We can't drink it, but we can use it outside for gardening or washing cars. But as soon as we filter it and analyze the water quality and meet certain water quality standards, we can switch to drinking water regulations for rainwater. We can drink it once the analyses are done. So how do you make sure that your rainwater, which falls there and goes through soil that is probably polluted and all that, becomes drinkable, or that you can use it for all the needs in your house? So once the water is in the tanks, it is pumped and then filtered in the house through 3 filters. A 25 micron filter removes all particles from the water. Then there is a charcoal filter that removes a lot of substances. I finish with an ultraviolet filter, which is important for removing bacteria from the water. Do you know how much it costs to install a self-sufficient water system? The total cost is about 6,000 euros, well, a little less than 6,000 euros. The main expense is the tanks. There are 5,000 euros just for the tanks. The pump, filters, and other items must cost about 600 euros. So it's a big investment. And in the 90,000 euros that your house cost, you have the 2,500 euros for the solar panels. Yes, that's 6,000 euros for rainwater harvesting and 2,000 for the solar water heater. All that's included in the 90,000 euro house price. Let's finish now with the food self-sufficiency part of your Earthship in the main room, the Abundance Greenhouse. Can you explain to us a bit what this room is for in your quest for food self-sufficiency? This room is interesting because this entire greenhouse stays frost-free, unlike an outdoor greenhouse. Here, even on the coldest winter nights inside the greenhouse, at night it's 5 or 6 degrees at the very least, really, at the very minimum. When it warms up, even in January with a little sun and 20 degrees, some plants here couldn't survive outdoors. So in terms of self-sufficiency, it helps me produce a bit more all year round and in their chips as well. This room is important because all the house's grey water flows through this tank before reaching the phytopurification system. I don't need to water these plants once they're established. This one only needed watering 3 or 4 times. Once roots go deep, they reach water. Well, it grows on its own, so really, in terms of work, it's very easy for me. It's interesting that you remind yourself about self-sufficiency. For water, you need a lot of storage to get through the summers, and for solar panels, it's the opposite. You need a lot of storage. To get through the winters, for food, it's the same. You have the abundance during the season to get through the winters. But when the weather is nice, like you have your permaculture garden, that's it. The greenhouse isn't enough to produce enough all year round to survive. There's also a large vegetable garden and a greenhouse too, which allows me to spread out my harvests over a long period of the year to produce as much as possible. Eating fruits from the garden and more. In a permaculture mindset, the idea is to protect the soil, to improve the soil, so to produce as much as possible, and also to bring abundance to the garden for year-round production. And are you able to be self-sufficient in food? Not yet. I'm still far from being self-sufficient in food. I'm not sure it's possible to be fully self-sufficient in food. One of the reasons why I'm not yet 100% self-sufficient today is that the construction of the house was only finished quite recently. That took up a lot of my time, and as a result, I didn't have time to be in the garden during that period. During that time, one of the mistakes often made by self-builders is starting the garden too early, and then not actually having the time to take care of it. With all the time that construction takes, when I arrived, I still started by planting the fruit trees. There are some all over the property. It takes years for them to produce, but now they're finally bearing fruit. I'm expecting my first fruit harvest this year and next. And what about the vegetable garden? I'm gradually expanding the production areas depending on the time I have to devote to it. Visiting your Earthship shows me that self-sufficiency remains quite technical. You have to manage solar panels, batteries, rainwater harvesting, food production, which is quite something, but it's also very philosophical. Self-sufficiency is a philosophy of life. You have to be vegan if you want to produce all your own food, and you have to be very energy efficient. To produce your own energy, you must be very frugal. Also, when it comes to water consumption, having dry toilets is important to really manage this scarce resource that is water. Do you think that this Earthship project and everything you've experienced here, it's a bit the best example of self-sufficiency? Well, yes, indeed. It leads us to rethink the way we live, how we inhabit our homes, to reconsider all those aspects. After leadership, it's a good way to be self-sufficient. It's not the only way. There is a wide range of possible self-sufficient houses, eco-friendly houses with different materials, and so on. So there are plenty of ways to achieve it. It must also fit the residence, whether it's a light dwelling, permanent structure, home size, and so on. And it also has to fit the location and the resources we have locally. There are so many things to do when it comes to ecological and self-sufficient housing that the way of living has to match both the residence and the place. Well, I hope you find the house that suits you, the self-sufficient ecological project that is right for you. In future reports on this YouTube channel, we will go see many other projects. Thank you anyway for having us. Welcomed us today. We really got a very interesting, very relevant overview. Finally, a house without a concrete foundation. It's nice to discover. I'll let you find the other reports on our YouTube channel. Find Pascal and Tatiana's book in the video description. And I'll see you very soon for new visits and new thoughts on ecology, self-sufficiency, and eco-construction. Goodbye.